What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of B is for Build. In today's episode, we are working on the Tech Runner. We have 5 days until this thing needs to leave for SEMA, and we got a lot of stuff to build. If you're new to this build, this thing started just as a dream on a computer. I threw a bunch of stuff together very haphazardly in a 3D modeling program, and I thought we could probably build that out of scraps from my Corvette. I got a bunch of metal together, threw some frame rails down on the ground, and started welding. About a week later, I had a roller utilizing C5 Corvette subframes and suspension. And then we dropped an LS1 out of a Corvette into the back, made it to an automatic transmission, Corvette differential. And after some power steering, brakes, and cooling systems, we had a running and driving car thing with no body. And in the last episode, we built a hell of a main body structure, but it's missing a lot of stuff, and that's what we're gonna be going after in this episode. Things like the front fenders, the rear fenders, the rear spoiler, a bunch of other stuff I can't think about right now. Trying to get all the fabrication done before we move into the bodywork stage. That's what's in store. Stay tuned. Today's episode is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. My personal favorite part of Raid is the PvP aspect of the game. I love being able to go in and fight other real people 1v1 to see how my team stacks up against theirs. And right now Raid is running this really amazing Halloween trick-or-treat promotion where you can win a bunch of real-life and in-game prizes, including $1,000 of Amazon gift cards and some of the best epic and legendary Halloween champions in Raid. The best part is it's all free and it's all super easy, and all you need is your Raid player ID. You just download Raid with my link in the description, and then you head to trickortreat.plarium.com, and to make it even easier, I link that in the description too. And then from there, you just enter your details and then spin the wheel to get your prize. That's it. You don't have to wait around. The special event runs October 15th to November 5th. And if you haven't started playing Raid yet, click my link in the description or scan my QR code right here on the screen, and you'll get unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking a free champion Rector draft, 200,000 silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, 1 ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. And all this treasure is going to be waiting for you right here. Thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this episode. Let's get down to it. Jumping right into the front splitter. Man, this thing is a massive undertaking. It's a huge part with a ton of different geometrical shapes. I didn't even really know where to get started, but what I decided was get some ram board on the ground here and then just draw the whole splitter out on the ground, then weld it out on the ground, and then start bringing it up to the car. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm figuring out which pieces I need to cut out of metal, the different angles, and I can transfer everything over to the metal and have it cut really quickly, and then start welding the pieces together. The original shape at the base of this thing I knew was kind of cringy. I didn't really like it. It's overly angled, it's too acute, but I knew that if I followed the rendering that it would kind of shape up later on. So I've got this built out of 5" by 1/8" thick sheet steel, and when the two pieces of 5" join, it makes a 10" wide section, which is what I need. But we could put a bend in the middle of those two, so put a slight angle. It gives us a lot more horizontal strength, which is really cool because we need a lot of strength. This is a very heavy piece. It's heavy because I built it out of steel, because I wanted to. It's a lot faster to weld than aluminum, and it saved me like probably $2,000 or $3,000 rather than building it out of aluminum. So we did it. It's kind of the theme. Also, we really wanted a lot more weight in the front end, so our line lock would work a lot better. So we got the two uprights there, and then what I'm doing is fabricating brackets underneath the car, which you can't see, and I'm welding them in there right now. And this thing has to bolt in and bolt out, because if you're gonna go over a steep bump, like if you're not on a racetrack or something like that, you're not gonna make a driveway with a splitter this low. So it has to come off the car if I was to be doing some street driving or something like that. The spoiler ended up being a little too aggressive and actually interfered with the tire and the turning radius, so I had to trim it back a little bit, and then I'm flushing these two angles right here so they meet up perfectly, and then clamping everything down, getting everything held up, and then getting that end cap in there. So that end cap helps keep both of the two pieces from moving independently, makes it super strong and easier for me to support further down the line. Now this piece, it does have some wobbles to it, but is also extremely strong. I can stand on it and it can hold all of my 200 pounds of weight without any problem. So it's very interesting, I will say. It's interesting, it's heavy, and it's really aggressive, and it is an ankle killer. If you are at SEMA, watch your ankles around this thing because it's seriously dangerous. In some of the backgrounds of these scenes, you're going to see my friend Zane helping out on some of the body work. Zane came in to help out, fill in for Kyle when Kyle went to Europe recently, and obviously being under such crunch time, I'm not letting Zane go. He's new to the car world, but he's a really huge help, and he's doing a ton of the body work to get these clean angles and clean lines on this car. So all the body filler that you're seeing being applied into the different creases and stuff is all Zane, which is super cool. Right here, I had to really quickly cut a hole in the cockpit because we need to put that triangular piece in there, and we also wanted to do some final screen mounting that happened kind of behind the scenes. So I got that cut, and now I'm starting to play with something that I saw on a Ferrari concept for their concept Formula One car, which is just this little over spat fender thing. And honestly, I love the look. I know it's probably gonna be somewhat controversial, but I love the look of it. And it does a couple things. One is it helps us be street legal because we technically have a fender. And two, it helps fill in that area over the tire. The original rendering called for a massive, massive fender, and I started building it out, and there was no way that it could be held the way the rendering was because, you know, the rendering's just made in a computer. It's not real life. So we opted for a big wing, tiny little spat over the tire, calling it good. Now the rear fenders can be supported by the back of the car, mainly the wing, and that's what we're building on here is the rear fenders. And so we decided to build these out just like we had in the rendering because they had a lot more room for support. Man, I tested out that front fender, and let me tell you, it was like if you tapped it, it would wobble and move 5-6 inches. It weighed almost 100 pounds, and it had only an inch of real estate to mount in one spot. It just wasn't gonna ever work in real life. And with these rear fenders, I'm really, really excited. The shape came out super cool. It's the first time we've ever built something like this just out of raw sheet metal with all the curves and all the everything, and it actually came together really, really nicely. And it's the first curved part that we actually put on the car, and it fits the styling. So I'm really happy. It's a big win, but it was a big worry part as well. This is about the time that our electric sheet metal nibbler broke on us in the middle of the night. So we had to cut everything with a cutoff wheel until we could run to Harbor Freight and buy another one right in the morning. Very first thing in the morning, we had to get another one because we use that tool a ton. So you can see that we're getting the little lip on that first fender, and then we're jumping in to finish off the second fender. And now it's time to really bust out the big metal. It's like we started with the spoiler, which was big metal and heavy, and then we did the fenders, which were nice and lightweight, and then now it's this rear wing, and I wanted it to have the appearance of being thick, which meant thick metal. We use steel in some places and aluminum in some places, and it's heavy duty. It's really, really heavy duty. We can definitely do one of those shots where we eat soup sitting on it. These steel trapezoids are basically the base that the spoiler will bolt into. They weld into the car, and then the spoiler's made out of aluminum, so it has to bolt in. Here, I needed a notch in the main part of the wing. This is the wing deck right here. It's a 1/2 inch thick piece of aluminum plate, and it is a lot of angle grinding to get right. Tried to use the plasma cutter, but we just didn't have enough juice to make it all the way through. Getting those steel bases mocked up and squared up so they're exactly parallel with the width of the wing, and they look really, really cool. So they're at this upward angle with contrasting angles coming in from the sides of the fenders and the rear deck. I had Oscar go ahead and weld this in because I wanted the prettiest welds I could have back here because they're very, very exposed. Then I really quickly jumped back into the fenders to change them and have them slant backwards just a little bit more to follow the design lines. I thought it looked a little bit better. Those are really cool, and they do actually hold a lot more weight than you think they would without even flexing, which is pretty crazy. So this is the upright for the fender. It is 1/4 inch thick aluminum. You can use a skill saw to cut through this type of stuff with just a metal blade. So I'm cutting out all the shaping that I need to do here and then hitting it with an angle grinder and a flap disc to radius all the edges perfectly. This aluminum rear deck lid for the spoiler just put up such a fight through the whole process. It didn't want to get notched really well to have that slight radius that I wanted, but I got it cleaned up. And then I needed to drill and tap the side of it, and the drill bit, and it was just not working out. So what we did was I had Oscar weld in a bracket basically to the side. It's a 90-degree downshoot to the side, and I was able to drill and tap that nicely and get a much stronger connection to this thing, which I really, really like. So this spoiler is going to be super, super strong. Now I'm going in and cleaning up the uprights, radiusing the edges, and hitting it with a DA sander to really scuff up the sides of those and flatten it out so it'll accept the paint a lot better. It's go time now to finally cut off the fenders and let them float by themselves. Free floating fenders that were just mounted in the very front turned out quickly wasn't going to be an option. So we tied them in with just one little piece of rod to the spoiler base, and that made it triangulate really, really well and made it a super, super strong rear fender. If you watch closely right here, you can see we're using lasers. This car actually will have quite a few lasers. This is a car that I'm building to have a lot of fun and test out kind of future technology. I think when doing burnouts or just seeing your exhaust at night, lasers are going to be pretty cool. So this car will be equipped with lots of lasers, which you will see in the finale. So right here we are drilling the uprights out so they can bolt into the base. This is the aluminum meeting up with the steel type of situation. And then we got the rear deck lid bolted in and back to the front fender to throw just some end caps on there real quick, following the design and the rendering that I wanted to help fill out that space. Good morning, guys. It's 8 a.m. Zane and I just did our like 2-hour sleep for the day, and we've got this thing to a place, and we're gonna show you around. It's in a state right now. It's a state of existence. So the big goal for this episode was the front splitter spoiler, the fenders, the rear fenders, and the wing. That's stuff we didn't have when we started. So I'm just gonna walk you around, show you around. I really like how this thing came out. We've been body working it, and it's getting really, really, really close. I don't even know if those supports are necessary, but I like having them there just in case. The fenders, I know, probably somewhat controversial. Somebody probably out there might not like them. I love them though. It really helps fill in the look here, and I really like it. Obviously the middle is pretty dialed. We love that. And then these rear fenders came out great. Really, really good. The wing isn't finished yet. There's a lot of accessory stuff that goes onto this. The secondary deck that goes in there. Bunch of stuff needs to be done, and that's gonna all have to be wrapped up in the next episode. We have 35 hours from this minute right now before this thing has to be loaded on a truck and heading to SEMA. So that means finishing fabrication, all the fabrication that needs to be done, and then getting it painted and decaled out before it goes to SEMA. I think we can do it. We just really got to put our head down and work super duper hard. I was telling the guys last night that in the beginning of this build, I was more worried than I've ever been for a SEMA build. Like the Mustang, always had faith in it, never really worried. I knew it always looked awesome. This one, I got this panel in right here and then just started worrying like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? But just try to trust the rendering and work the problem through and just keep going. And it has transformed into something that I'm so, so proud of that we built, and I cannot wait to show everybody because it is such a freaking stunner and such a looker. Very, very proud. We got a lot of work to do. The final push starts in the next episode, which you guys will see in a few days. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to subscribe so you don't miss anything, and we'll see you soon.